Back here, Greg Jennings talking NFL draft. So the combine is underway, and Joe Burrow is already in the news. His hands measured in at 9 inches. No first-round quarterback has had smaller hands than 9 inches since 2008. And while his stock might be going down, Tua Tagovailoa's might be going up. Pro Football Focus says Tua will be a high-end starter if he is healthy. As for Burrow and his hands, the Heisman winner tweeted yesterday, this is fantastic. Look what he tweeted. Considering retirement after I was informed the football will be slipping out of my tiny hands. Please keep me in your thoughts. It's great. Lean into it.
I love that, Joey. That's great.
All right, Nick, who should be the first pick in the draft? A lot of people have Burrow. You've been on side Tua for a while.
It's not an anti-Joe Burrow take, and I promise it has nothing to do with his tiny, tiny hands.
Why do they have to be tiny?
Just one tiny.
Well, okay, fair enough. Just his tiny hands, his self-proclaimed tiny hands. The best quarterback in the NFL and the most talented quarterback my eyes have ever laid eyes on, Patrick Mahomes, his hands are a whole quarter of an inch bigger than Joe Burrow's.
9 and a quarter.
9 and a quarter to Joe's 9, and we saw him play, and I understand there's stripes on the college football as opposed to the NFL football, so it's a little different about how much hand size matters. And by the way, you played with two guys with freak show hands, right? Mm-hmm. In Favre and Rodgers, and we have seen, you can talk about this far better than me, we've seen countless highlights of them going back in the pocket, some behemoth coming off their blind side, chopping down on their arm, and somehow the ball not coming loose. So I do think it matters to a degree. But before I knew Joe Burrow's hand size, I would have said Tua, and the answer is multi-layered. One is I think Tua's upside is higher. The other is there does seem to be, for Cincinnati in particular, some murmurs that Joe Burrow maybe wouldn't want to be there. Tua, there is no question he would be thrilled to be anywhere, and he's going to sit the first year. So if you're Cincinnati and you need a total overhaul anyway, having a redshirt year from Tua where you can be bad again is not the worst thing in the world, as opposed to drafting Burrow, who's going to expect to be playing immediately behind a team that needs an overhaul and maybe get beat up a bit. So for a lot of reasons, but most notably, I think Joe Burrow is good at everything. And aside from collegiate accuracy, I don't know that he's great. A-level NFL great at anything, and I think Tua can be a superstar in this league. I would take Tua, but it's got very little to do with Joe Burrow's little hands.
Okay.
Tiny hands.
Okay, sorry.
Come on,
my
Nick.
apologies.
So I agree with you on some of your stance. I like Tua better than I do like Joe Burrow. But I just want to put everyone in Joe Burrow's shoes for a second. Like, I'm the healthy one, and this guy is injured, and you're questioning who you would take, like, he's going to feel some level of disrespect. Like, as an athlete, as people, as competitors, if someone didn't show up and actually perform the way that you're doing it right now, and they did it from home, and they just called in, and they were sick, you would be like, dude, he sounded terrible. He's sick. He can't do what I do. They can't run 12 miles in one day when they got a half mile in 2 weeks. Like, you would feel some way slighted. And all you've done is have success.
One of the greatest single seasons.
All you've done is have success. Joe Burrow he should be the #1 overall draft pick because he is healthy. Now, that may be the only reason why, because as far as talent level, as far as what these guys can be, that's to be seen. But right now, I'm not taking, if I'm Cincinnati, Tua, and I know my organization needs an overhaul, and I need a guy now, and to give my fan base and to sell tickets and say, oh, yeah, we're going to take Tua, but he's not going to play this year, so you got to wait for 2021 or 2022. Like, no, that's not how it works. You take the healthy guy because you understand I need someone right now that can provide me with some type of lift, some type of boost. That is Joe Burrow.
I just have to ask about the injury, because the injury is what's keeping us really from having a true conversation of who the #1 guy should be coming out of the draft. He didn't just have an injury. He's injury prone. He's had a number of injuries. The most recent one, the hip, which now they're saying if he's healthy, he could be, good to go. He's wearing the brace on the knee in that picture there. Do you worry about him coming out? The fact that in college he's really banged up a number of different limbs already, his hip most specifically?
Yes, you worry. You worry. Going through the NFL combine, like, I had an ankle injury. I had like a elbow dislocation. They literally, I was in an x-ray room for 8.5 hours because they were trying to MRI as well, make sure that my ankles were good, make sure every little thing was perfectly fine, because this is a huge investment.
Huge
now, I was a second-round draft pick. Imagine if you're potentially going to be the #1 draft pick overall. You're going to go above and beyond. You're going to look at Tua and say, I can't take that type of a chance right out the gate, #1 overall, and he's hurt. And sell this to my fan base and say, this is the product that we just bought. This is what we're bringing.
Right.
But wait, we can't use it.
So make the case,
but so here's why you can, is because in order to be successful as the #1 overall pick of the draft at quarterback, you have to turn into a championship-level quarterback. I'm not saying you have to win a Super Bowl, but you've got to be a quarterback that's good enough to put your team in contention to compete for them. And who you got to go through if you're Cincinnati? In your division, you have to go through reigning MVP Lamar Jackson, and you're going to have to go through Baker Mayfield, who I believe is going to bounce back after a sensational rookie season and then a bad second year. And by the way, the Steelers are still there. If you get through your division, you are going to have to go through future MVP Deshaun Watson, and then you're going to have to go through the reigning Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes. You better have a stud at quarterback. You cannot have a rich man's Andy Dalton. You got to have a guy that can go across the field eye to eye with Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and say, man, today I'm the better quarterback. And I think that's Tua, even if you got to wait a year for it. I think I understand your point. There's safety in Joe Burrow, and maybe Joe Burrow will turn into the quarterback that I believe Tua ultimately will be. But I think Tua's upside is too high to pass up on at that spot, especially in you know who you're competing against in the NFL. Players change, quarterbacks don't. Lamar is going to be the quarterback of the Ravens for at a minimum the entirety of whoever they draft their rookie contract. Baker Mayfield's going to be in Cleveland. The Steelers are going to be the damn Steelers no matter who their quarterback is. And then you have Deshaun, who's about to get a 5-year huge extension, and Patrick, who's about to get a 5-year huge extension. Who do you feel like can elevate your franchise to compete with those guys? It's the same thing, by the way, the Houston Texans, what changed their franchise, and I know they haven't had massive playoff success, was they went from also-rans or good but not great Matt Schaub to Deshaun bleeping Watson. Let's go. I know they blew the game, but we can be up 24-0 on the road in a playoff game on Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're going to have the best A-plus option, and to me, that's Tua. The injuries are the only reason that, to me, this isn't an open and shut case.
All right, let's leave it there. Take a break coming up. Are the Patriots about to deal for Cam Newton? Next on First Things First.
Might have to go through Cam.
I think we're disrespecting Joe Burrow.